Hi, everybody. So I just have a quick announcement to make. For those of you who were subscribed to my other channel, the Antinatalist Informant, you know that channel has been taken down. But I've created a new channel to address my new philosophy, which I'm calling Life Abolitionism. And this coincides with the book that I'm going to be releasing on December 15th. And so, I mean, I know specifically why my channel was taken down. I guess I need to avoid certain topics, and then people were asking me for specific information, which I didn't explicitly state, but I did provide an AI tool which doesn't have a filter on it or censorship. So although I did not explicitly provide any substantive advice on what people should do, I kind of hinted at it. But anyway, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. If you guys want the information, you guys are going to have to get the book. I'm not even arguing for what they think that I was arguing for. I'm arguing for a legal right, which we don't have currently, which is the right to self ownership. And so this is a very comprehensive philosophy, right? This incorporates anti-natalism, socialism, anarchy, pro-mortalism, but it really goes back to the principle of self-ownership, that if you own your life, then you can do whatever you want with it. And this is very comprehensive. I start with, it's based on a property law analysis that the right to property includes the right to disposal. I kind of started with Plessy versus Ferguson, and Plessy versus Ferguson had a three-pronged test for slavery, which is the deprivation of the right to the disposal of one's person, property, and services. So those three prongs are what constitutes slavery. And so I address all three prongs, um, but I focus primarily on the deprivation of the right to the disposal of one's person, and how the state has basically commandeered our lives, that it constitutes a regulatory taking of our life without just compensation. So we don't exist for our own sake or for our own benefit. We exist for the benefit of society. And so I guess there are two, I don't know what you would call it. You would call them two threats to liberty, I would guess, or whatever you want to. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really came up with a term for the state, but I did come up with a term for parents, which I guess I don't really want to go into detail about that on this channel because I'm going to get into the philosophy more on this channel. But I guess I can kind of introduce terms, right? Because when you get disinherited from your parents, or this whole expectation that you owe your parents, no, I come up with very specific terms, and this fills in the gap for anti-natalists who feel that anti-natalism doesn't go far enough. Um, the term that I came up with is the moral debt for life enslavement. So this is a debt that cannot be repaid. No matter what you do, there's nothing that you can do to compensate someone for enslaving them to life. I don't refer to parents as parents. I refer to them as life enslavers because that is essentially what they're doing. They essentially set everything into motion for you to be a slave for the state. And then the state owns you because due to this disposal tax, which I've articulated, the person or the entity that has the right to disposal is who actually owns it. So you don't actually own your life, which I explain in detail in the book. Um, the courts don't even say that we own our lives. What the courts say is that our lives are inalienable, meaning nobody can actually own your life. But if you don't own your life, then that basically means that everybody owns your life. It means that you're owned by the collective. And without the principle of self ownership is the cornerstone for all liberty. If you don't have rights, if you don't have the right to self ownership, then you can't have rights. You can't own property. So, and I also address the Ninth Amendment because most of our rights are basically privileges. They're not based on natural rights under the Ninth Amendment. They're privileges that are given to you by the state. So it's not based on self ownership. It's based on statism, that the state has sovereignty, and then the state says, "Oh, we're going to give you certain privileges based that are subject to our regulations." So you don't own your life. I don't think the courts even try to argue that you own your life, because if they were to say that, they would really contradict most case law. Um, and if you don't own your life, then you can't have rights. So this is the reason why states have the ultimate authority on regulating life and death situations. That the state has a monopoly on physical force. So the state has the right to determine who gets to live or die, but you don't even have that right for yourself. So this is an entire system of life slavery, right? We talk about wage slavery when it comes to capitalism, but life in and of itself, especially under this statist capitalist framework, is a system of slavery, which is imposed on you from birth. Now, if you were in an anarchist society, that would be one thing, because you would basically be left alone to do whatever you want. But when you live in a civilized society with all of these laws and regulations, and you have all these duties to everybody, to the collective, that is a comprehensive system of systemic slavery. I mean, you were born into a democratic society where it's based on tyranny of the majority. You don't get a say on anything. If whatever the majority says goes. So um, it creates a false sense of legitimacy, that because the majority decided something, that makes it right. It's like, no, that's not what that actually is what democracy is. But we're not supposed to have a democracy. We're supposed to have a republic where we have elected officials that protect the rights of minorities from tyranny of the majority. But it's been run as a pure majoritarian tyrannical system. And I guess I don't really want to go into detail about the political aspect of it, because I do hold everybody accountable. I hold the parents accountable, I hold the state accountable, and I also hold the public accountable for their complicity. Um, I talk about how they created the system, they created the dangerous instrumentality, they supported democracy, and at the same time they're going to abdicate their social responsibility, right? They support this system, right? But at the same time, they're going to say, "Oh, it's not my responsibility. It's every man for himself. You go do you." But at the same time, they're trying to have abject control over every aspect of your life by using the state as their instrument of oppression. So it's not just the state, the public themselves, they are jointly and severally liable, which this isn't about legal liability, right? This is about moral culpability, that this is a massive conspiracy to keep you enslaved. Um, and so what I propose is socialism, which I don't want to give it all away because it's in a book. Um, I understand the whole they want to have all these slippery slope arguments, public policy, the compelling state interest, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. Who gives a shit? But what I'm saying is, you can have all those justifications, but those justifications serve the public. They don't serve me. So if I have to exist for the public's benefit, then I am entitled to compensation. I am entitled to remuneration in the form of complete and total socialism. So I'm not a proponent of traditional socialism, but I'm saying that this is a consolation for it. Basically, what I'm saying is, put your money where your mouth is. You're saying that you have an interest in my life, right? You're saying that this is for my welfare. This is for this is for my benefit, right? So for all the proponents of the sanctity of life mythology, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is. Otherwise, you're going to have to shut the fuck up. Gosh, I didn't want to say this for my because I'm going to be putting this on my other channel as my first video. Um, Let me clean up my language, but you're going to have to shut up because you don't get to have a critique about my existence unless you're going to put your money where your mouth is. So unless you have an actual stake in my existence, meaning you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to repay my student loans. You're going to have to pay my mortgage. You're going to have to pay for my food, my groceries, my transportation costs. I have a whole chapter in the book called The Life Slaves Ledger, which is about it's about all the benefits that your life enslavers got, and also what society got from your existence, right? And then on the cost side, all the costs are maintained by you. So you maintain all the costs for your involuntary existence. You have to work, you have to eat, you have all these social emotional labor that you have to perform, put on a fake smile, make people feel comfortable. You're subjected to democracy. Your parents are going to die. You're going to be stuck with that grief for the rest of your life. You're eventually going to die. You're going to age and decline. Your body's going to deteriorate, and you reap no benefit from it whatsoever. Society benefit from it. Your parents benefited. They get a legacy. They get somebody to instill their moral and religious beliefs with, somebody to make them feel good so they can self-actualize. But on the flip side, you like on the life slaves ledger at the bottom, I'll just say you got screwed. Like it's complete net zero, and all the benefits are on the other side. It's on the side of the life enslavers, the status, and the public. So they reap all the benefits. So it is a comprehensive system of slavery. Let me see if there's anybody here. So I'm not going to be talking about that on this channel because I know most people are not anti-natalist, but this philosophy is much more comprehensive. It goes further than anti-natalism because anti-natalism is an ethical framework that's a lot of people. I guess it doesn't connect. But first, because you're talking about a non-entity, you're talking about imposing a moral duty for someone who doesn't exist. That whole asymmetry thing. And right, if you have ethics, fine, you can sort of extrapolate from that because I guess for most anti-natalists, we're already leaning in that direction anyway. This was just something to connect the dots for us, but a lot of people are not leaning in that way. So just to have an ethical framework of asymmetry applying to a non-entity, a lot of people are they're able to dismiss it because, well, first of all, people are inherently selfish. Even they're even selfish to the point that they put their own needs before their own children or potential children. So I guess a lot of these anti-natalist content creators, we have been making content to fill in to fill in the gaps, to talk about how the imposition of life does create real and substantive harm to the person who is brought into existence. But I don't think that the book really does that. I think, and that's what I was trying to do with my book. My book was not to try to cover every possible scenario. My book is about creating a framework for moral liability. That you start to think. Okay, first of all, let me just say this: the book is not about. I guess David Benatar's book was mostly about. It's based on wrongful life because he's written before he wrote Better Never to Have Been. He's written several articles about medical ethics, and it's based on wrongful life, which I didn't really talk a lot about. But wrongful life is a tort. It's a negligence based tort. It's usually used in a medical context that doctors who are negligent and I don't know, for performing some type of ethical or medical duty that a person is brought into existence as a result of their negligence. I could go into examples, but I'm not really talking about that right now. But out of wrongful life, y'all know about wrongful death, but wrongful life is a corollary to wrongful death. So out of wrongful death, he created this whole philosophy. Well, actually, he didn't create it, but his book is around wrongful life. My book is not about wrongful life. My book is about unjust enrichment because wrongful life is about an imposition for a duty. I mean, for a duty to someone who doesn't exist, for a non-entity. Mine is about a duty to someone who already exists and their continued captivity and how society and your parents and everybody else benefits from your existence. So it's unjust enrichment because it doesn't benefit you. These are all equitable claims, not legal claims. So this is not about me trying to advocate for the law or trying to create. Well, I'm actually indirectly arguing for a legal right, but I'm saying outside of that because they're not going to legalize the right that I'm not allowed to say. But in the absence of that legal right, then you have a moral duty to remunerate those who are kept in perpetual captivity. That you are actively contributing to their suffering, you're benefiting from it, and they are not benefiting from it. I think they sort of assume that you are. They just assume that life is sacred, is sacrosanct, democracy is sacrosanct, is inherently beneficial for everybody, but they don't consider the people who are screwed over by this whole systematic oppression, right? It's about what benefits the majority. So the minority who doesn't benefit from it, by the way, the moral debt for life enslavement is not. I mean, it's absolute because it applies to everybody. What I'm saying is that all parents automatically incur a moral debt for your enslavement, but it is dischargeable based on their actions. If they were good parents, right? If they weren't abusive, I do say that you are entitled to a forced heirship, that they can't just impose life on you and say, oh, I'm only responsible for you until the age of 18. No, you didn't just create a baby, you created a full human being. You don't have a moral right to disinherit your children, no matter whether they are estranged or not. I talk about the nature versus nurture, that under both circumstances, the parents are jointly and severally liable. They're responsible if it was because of your nature, just because of your biological disposition, that's their fault because you got 50% of your genetic material from both parents. And then if it was based on nurture, based on environmental factors that caused you to be estranged from them, that's still their fault. So they created you. They're responsible for the sum total of the product that they created. And even, I mean, I guess what needs to be said is that nobody, I don't want to go into detail about everything that I wrote in the book, but everybody has a natural inclination to have a bond to their parents. It's for their own survival. That if you are estranged from your parents, it's not because you just hate your parents. It's usually because of parental neglect or abuse or something like that. So you don't get to abdicate your moral responsibility from your children, even if they are adults. Um, and what did I call it? Anyway, I'm still working on a book. It's mostly done, but the content is all there, but I need to edit it some more, and I need to add citations to everything. But I have charts. Basically, anti-nazism is going to be obsolete after this. Like, anti-nazism provides a moral framework for life abolitionism. But once y'all go through these charts and y'all see this shit, it's really going to paint a full picture that anti-nazism doesn't do. Um, I'm not going to give it all away right now because I'm going to actually talk about it in greater detail on my new channel. But this really fills in the gaps for everybody who feels like, okay, but what do you do about, you can talk about anti-natalism, that it's wrong to have children, but what do you do about those who are already here? I don't think anybody has been able to answer that. I don't think anybody has even attempted to answer that, other than just theoretical philosophizing about, well, mate, which I'm not going to talk about that right now because I think that's why my other channel got taken down. But no, this is a comprehensive philosophy. It's not just anti-natalism. It's really the framework for the entire system of enslavement, of life enslavement. That you have all these duties to the public, to the state, but the state really doesn't have any reciprocal duties to you. So you are entitled to remuneration. And for those who say, "Oh, I'm not paying for your welfare," shit, bullshit. You have a responsibility for it, especially for those who are here involuntarily, who don't actually enjoy their existence. And you're contemporaneously saying that they don't have a right to opt out. So you need to pay for all of your oppression. Put your money where your mouth is. You don't have standing to use your democratic vote to oppress somebody else when you don't have to bear any of the consequences for it, right? But now the way I framed it is that society has a collective responsibility for the oppression that it inflicts on everybody else. So you want to vote away people's rights, you want to disenfranchise people, you want to tell people that they don't have a right to get an abortion, they have to subscribe to your moral underpinnings. Fine, fine. Just write me a check. Just write. You can oppress me all you want, but I need a check. Otherwise, you're gonna have to shut the fuck up. Um, I just said I was gonna clean up my language, and I just can't help myself. But what else do I need to say? I guess there's really not much else to say other than the fact that I'm releasing my book December 15th. Um, like I said, I'm going to go through the charts on my other channel so that y'all can see how this actually works out. It complete like the when y'all I'm no shade to David Benatar, but when y'all look at my charts and y'all see the detail in it, it completely notifies the need for that asymmetry chart. Like it's not like the asymmetry chart is, I guess it's foundational, but it doesn't go far enough, and the asymmetry chart doesn't resonate with most people because I know that what he's saying is objectively true, but for most people it doesn't resonate because they don't see it that way. They don't. I mean, you can talk again. They haven't read the book, first of all, so the whole Pollyanna bias, that doesn't resonate, right? They actually do believe that their lives are filled with more joy than suffering. Um, I don't even address that at all. It's just about who gets the benefits and who's unjustly enriched by your existence, and those are the people who have a moral debt for life enslavement. So let me see if there's anybody still here. Y'all, this okay? I have some comments. Y'all are gonna love this book. This book because I guess because I had that anti-natalist channel for so long, and I've listened to all the pushback. It's almost like I have a full picture of what everybody's thinking. I know all the arguments, so it's completely encapsulated in this book. It's a complete, comprehensive philosophy that really nobody can debunk it. I don't see. There's no way you can debunk this philosophy. Um, I would like to see somebody try, but I think it's completely foolproof. Well, the beauty of this philosophy is they don't have to believe in it, because they're not going to adopt it because they're selfish. What I do is I bypass that altogether. you're going to have moral consequences for your behavior. You can be as selfish as you want, but you're going to have a okay, here's the beauty of it, right? They don't have to listen to you, right? They don't give a shit about, we're just random people, we're just strangers. But they can't just be dismissive of their own children. When their children look at them in the eye and say, "Mommy and Daddy, look at what you did to me. You owe me," and it completely reframes the whole conversation. The narrative is that your children owe you because you have sacrificed. You were so long suffering, and this is the narrative that has been that is ubiquitous in society. No, it completely flips it on its head. No, you have the moral responsibility. Everything that you did was transactional, right? This was an investment. This was your work product that you were looking to create a legacy, to give your life fulfillment, self actualize at the expense of your children. So you owe your children. The moral obscenity of it is that you actually created your own slave. You created a slave to serve you, to make you happy. Um, and you need to pay for that shit. Y'all, this book, I know, I'm not even sure if I should do self-publishing because this book is so good that I almost want to use a professional publisher, because I think this book and what I laid out is going to, again, no shade to David Benatar, but his book is basically going to be, I don't want to shade David Benatar because um I do have a lot of respect for him for making antinatalism mainstream. Um, and maybe if this book is successful, I think it's going to be successful. I don't see it. The first book I think was limited to a very specific demographic, but this is so comprehensive. It applies to everybody. I don't see how this book can't be successful. I think I may want to do a mainstream publisher because this book is that good. Like, I know I wrote it, so I'm not objective, but when I'm reading it, I'm just like, this artic. I mean, I guess I know I wrote it, but at the same time, I can stack back and look objective, like this, objectively. This articulates what I have been thinking for so long, what most of us have been thinking for so long, and I'm just so proud of this book. Like, um, because it gives you the ammunition to address their arguments. They're not trying to engage with you. I want you to understand that. When you try to present anti-natalism with them, they're not trying to engage. They're trying to they're trying they're let me their center is the fact that they want to have children, and or that they already have children, and so their moral justification, it's going to work backwards, right? They're going to it's not objective. They're trying to work backwards to say it is right, and they're going to give explanations for why it is right. Um, so yeah, congratulations for that. Congratulations for that. We need to have an anti-natalist day or a life abolitionist day. At this point, I guess I'm going to use it transitionally, but basically, I'm going to remove the word anti-natalism from my vocabulary eventually, right? Because I think this philosophy is basically going to replace anti-natalism. Because nope, it doesn't resonate with anybody except those who are actually anti-natalist. They don't care about this shit. Um, Let me see if there's any comments. The other book, the other channel is Life Abolitionist or Life Abolitionism, which when I'm done, I'm going to post it in the description. But y'all see in on the picture, this is going to be my watermark for my other channel, and this is going to, like, it's Life Abolitionism. So just look up Life Abolitionism, but I'm also going to post it in the description. And y'all, please don't come to my channel asking me for specific advice. because I fell in this trap. Like there were several people asking me for advice. Don't ask me for that. Y'all know we're not allowed to talk about certain things on YouTube. And I tried to, talk around it and use euphemisms. But whatever, I guess all that shit caught up. Y'all got the people who were asking me all those questions. Y'all got my channel taken down. Okay. What if a person believes in equal suffering that they must perpetuate suffering on others, bring to his state to bring about their? How do deal with someone or a group of people? Um, I can't even address. Again, this is one of those questions that would get my channel taken down. I'm not gonna. I can't. I mean, what do you expect me to say? Like, I can't. You know what? Maybe I can create a Rumble channel so I can actually speak freely, but I can't answer that question on here. There have been people who have taken actions into their own hands. I'm not going to talk about that right now because I'm skating on thin ice. This whole philosophy is already skating on thin ice. So for me to be explicit, to actually say, I'm not doing. I'm not getting this channel taken down. I'm not getting my new channel taken down. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any comments before I get off here. Yeah, so the other channel, I'm not allowed to live stream yet, but I'm going to upload. Once I'm done with this live stream, I'm going to download this and upload it to my other channel. All right, y'all. So I guess with that, y'all should be looking forward to some content and look forward to that book because it's fire. It's really good, and I'm gonna have to say I stepped my game up from the last one. The last one was good, but I think it just doesn't apply to enough people. This applies to a much broader audience. So thank y'all so much for your support, and be sure to